You are not entirely the species you think you are. Within your cells lies a map of ancient encounters that ended tens of thousands of years ago. The lonely branch. For generations, we have looked at our reflection in the mirror of deep time and seen a solitary figure. We have comforted ourselves with the story of our singular survival, believing that Homo sapiens was destined to stand alone on the topmost branch of the evolutionary tree. This is the myth of human singularity, a comforting, isolationist narrative that portrays our ancestors as lonely wanderers who conquered a vacant world. In this traditional view, the vast, unforgiving expanses of the Pleistocene epoch were empty, save for our direct lineage. Marching in a straight, uninterrupted line from the dim mists of prehistory toward the bright light of the modern age, we treated our biological uniqueness not as an accident of survival, but as an inevitable, preordained crown. Yet, if we brush away the dust of this outdated scientific orthodoxy, we find a far more crowded, vibrant neighborhood. The Earth was not a silent stage awaiting a single actor. Not so long ago, in the grand scale of geological time, the winding valleys of Europe, the high plateaus of Asia, and the dense primeval forests of Eurasia hummed with the voices of other human species. We walked alongside biological giants and evolutionary ghosts. To the west, the robust and highly resilient Neanderthals carved out complex lives in the shadow of advancing ice sheets, their campfires flickering in the cold European nights. To the east, the mysterious Denisovans adapted to the thin, freezing air of high-altitude caves, leaving behind only subtle whispers of their existence in the fossilized soil. There were others too, diminutive travelers on isolated tropical islands, and phantom lineages whose names we have yet to write. Our current solitude is a historical anomaly, a quiet, lonely interval in an epic story that was once loud with diverse voices. We are not the sole inhabitants of an empty house, we are simply the last occupants remaining in a grand, ancient estate that was once bustling with family. As we peer into the deep archives of our own cells, we begin to realize that the lonely branch we thought we occupied is actually woven tightly into a dense, tangled forest of shared existence, where the boundaries between us and them dissolve like ink, drops in water, revealing a beautiful, deeply interconnected tapestry of our ancient human life. The encounter in the Eurasian wilds. To understand how these lost worlds continue to breathe inside our modern bodies, we must journey backward through the dense mists of the late Pleistocene. Imagine the vast, unforgiving expanses of the Eurasian continent 40,000 years ago. A harsh, magnificent landscape dominated by shifting glaciers, windswept steppes, and ancient, towering forests of pine and birch. It was here, in these silent valleys, that two distinct lineages of humanity finally crossed paths. Anatomically modern humans migrating slowly northward out of the warm, sun-drenched valleys of Africa encountered the Neanderthals, a resilient, deeply adapted cousin species who had already called the cold, rugged terrains of Europe and Western Asia home for hundreds of thousands of years. For decades, early anthropologists viewed this epochal meeting as a harsh, competitive clash, a violent struggle for dominance where one branch inevitably withered away into the dark. Yet, the silent testimony written within our own genetic code tells a far more intimate, cooperative story. The encounters in these misty, ice-rimmed valleys were not brief, hostile skirmishes, nor were they rare, accidental anomalies. Instead, they represented a quiet, enduring reality of Pleistocene life. As small nomadic bands of sapiens and Neanderthals shared the same ecological niches, seeking shelter in the same limestone caves and hunting the same herds of mammoth and bison across the frozen tundra, their worlds inevitably became intertwined. They shared warm hearths, exchanged raw materials, and ultimately chose to raise children together near the cliffs. This physical mingling was a natural, fluid expression of human curiosity and connection in an incredibly vast, lonely world. Through these quiet unions, the distinct genetic streams of these two long-separated lineages began to bleed into one another. Much like slow ink drops diffusing into clear water, when we gaze upon our own biology today, we realize we are not looking at the pure descendants of a single, isolated African migration. Instead, we are looking at a living, breathing, and remarkably complex archive of those ancient, cold nights in Eurasia. The Neanderthals did not simply vanish into the shadows of extinction. As old textbooks once claimed, they merged with us, leaving their indelible signatures in our immune systems, our skin, and our very resilience. In the quiet, microscopic spaces of our own DNA, that ancient wild encounter never truly ended. The Molecular Archive. To read this silent history, scientists must become cartographers of a microscopic wilderness, decoding the delicate, winding threads of our chromosomes. How do we distinguish the ancestral whispers of a Neanderthal from the vast modern ocean of our own genetic code? The answer lies in the quiet, steady rhythm of molecular mutation. Every time a cell divides, and every time a generation passes, tiny, random spelling changes occur within our chemical instruction manual. These mutations are not always harmful. More often, they are neutral, silent hitchhikers traveling through the deep, forgotten valleys of time. Because these genomic changes accumulate at a relatively predictable, slow rate, they function as an exquisite biological timestamp. By comparing the genomes of living people with the precious fossilized DNA recovered from ancient bones found in dark, freezing Siberian and European caves, geneticists can map exactly where our paths diverged. Furthermore, the passage of deep time itself leaves a chemical scar on these ancient DNA molecules. Over thousands of years, the delicate cytosine bases at the ends of recovered strands slowly degrade, transforming into thymine through a process known as deamination. This highly characteristic damage pattern acts as a physical proof of antiquity, a molecular certificate of origin confirming that the sample is not modern contamination, but a genuine voice from the Pleistocene epoch. When we align our modern sequences with this authenticated Neanderthal reference genome, we begin to notice specific shared variations, molecular signatures that are entirely absent in populations whose ancestors never left the African continent. These shared mutations are the unmistakable footprints of ancient encounters, preserved forever in the amber of our biology. Each fragment of Neanderthal DNA we still carry today is a living fossil, a molecular heirloom passed down through thousands of generations. By precisely measuring the physical length of these shared genetic segments, scientists can even calculate how many generations have passed since that long ago mixing occurred. Over the millennia, the continuous, rhythmic recombination of chromosomes breaks these ancient blocks into smaller, more scattered pieces, leaving us with the delicate, fragmented mosaic we observe today. We are left looking at a beautiful, complex tapestry, where each thread of ancient code tells a story of survival, migration, and the enduring, unbreakable connection between ourselves and the lost humans of the deep. Forgotten past. The Denisovan Whisper. While the Neanderthals have long occupied the center stage of human evolution, a deeper, more elusive mystery resides within the high, jagged reaches of the Altai Mountains. Here, in the frigid silence of the Denisova cave, researchers unearth not a mountain of skeletal remains, but a handful of modest, unassuming fragments, a single molar, a sliver of a finger bone, and a small piece of a skull. These sparse remnants belong to a lineage that existed as a ghost for most of our scientific history. Unlike the robust Neanderthals, whose heavy frames and defined brows are etched into the public consciousness, the Denisovans remain a people defined primarily by the subtle, persistent traces they left behind in the modern human genome. We do not have a clear visual portrait of their faces, nor do we possess a complete census of their vast wandering range across the Asian continent. Instead, we have the molecular imprint they etched into the bloodlines of populations living today. From the high plateaus of Tibet to the lush, tropical archipelagos of the Pacific. This is an archaeology of the invisible, where the soil holds few secrets but our own biological code reveals an entire lost civilization. The Denisovan story is one written in silence, a narrative obscured by time and the erosion of soft tissue, yet kept vibrant through the persistent, echoing inheritance found in the immune systems and physiological adaptations of their distant descendants. They were not merely a side note in our ancestral story, but a distinct, sophisticated branch of humanity that thrived in environments where survival demanded extraordinary resilience. Through the meticulous sequencing of their ancient genomes, we have learned that our lineage was never a solitary march toward modernity. It was a fluid, interconnected journey marked by meetings in the shadows of Pleistocene forests and mountain passes. These ghosts are not truly gone, they are woven into the very fabric of our being, a whisper of a forgotten cousinhood that persists long after their physical presence vanished from the earth. Their legacy is the quiet strength of our own resilience, an enduring testament to the complexity of our collective past. Inherited tools for survival. When our ancestors first ventured out of the verdant, stable environments of the African cradle, they were met with the unforgiving reality of a rapidly shifting, ice-sculpted landscape. This was a world defined by biting winds, sparse vegetation, and entirely novel pathogens that had never before challenged the human constitution. To survive in these foreign terrains, our forebears required more than just the ingenuity of stone tools or the warmth of hearth fires. They required a biological upgrade. The genetic legacy left behind by our archaic cousins served as a vital toolkit for this monumental expansion. By interbreeding with populations already perfectly calibrated to the rugged Eurasian wilderness, our ancestors acquired a suite of adaptive advantages that would have otherwise taken millennia of slow, agonizing trial and error to evolve independently. These inherited segments of DNA were not mere relics of a distant past, they were precise, functional instruments of survival. Specifically, certain genes derived from Neanderthals and Denisovans have been linked to enhanced immune system responses, allowing our ancestors to identify and neutralize local viruses that had long haunted the caves of the north. Furthermore, these archaic contributions played a significant role in altering the composition of our skin and hair, providing crucial protection against the harsh ultraviolet radiation found at higher latitudes. This biological synthesis was essentially a shortcut through the slow process of natural selection. By integrating the successful genetic innovations of those who had mastered these frozen, challenging landscapes, our lineage gains the metabolic flexibility required to thrive in conditions that would have surely halted any other species. We are the fortunate beneficiaries of this ancient cross-species collaboration, a testament to the fact that our survival was never an isolated victory. Instead, it was a collective effort, forged through the intimate exchange of genetic wisdom. These fragments within our own cells represent a profound biological debt, reminding us that our endurance is inextricably linked to the ghosts who walked beside us, leaving behind the necessary blueprints for us to persist in a changing world. We carry their resilience in our marrow, a silent, enduring partnership that continues to define the very limits of our own mortal strength. The ghost in the machine. Beyond the dusty archives of the fossil record, these echoes of our ancestors continue to whisper through the very architecture of our modern biology. The fragments of Neanderthal and Denisovan DNA we carry are not merely static monuments to a vanished era, they remain functional, living components of our internal machinery. In the quiet, microscopic chambers of our cells, these archaic sequences actively influence how we navigate the world around us. They are silent architects of our physiology, quietly adjusting our immune responses, determining the way our skin reacts to the harsh intensity of the sun, and even sculpting the complex metabolic pathways that allow us to process the energy we derive from our meals. Consider the resilience required by our ancestors to survive the biting, unforgiving winters of the Pleistocene. That same biological fortitude is etched into our modern genetic code, occasionally surfacing to grant us unexpected advantages in health or physical endurance. It is a profound realization that the survival strategies developed by those who walked the earth tens of thousands of years ago are still being tested and refined within our own bodies today. We often view our genome as a strictly modern blueprint, yet it is far more accurate to see it as a palimpsest, where ancient scripts have been written over, but never fully erased. This inherited legacy acts as a hidden regulator, subtle yet persistent, nudging the development of our physical traits in ways we are only just beginning to map with precision. When we examine the prevalence of certain autoimmune conditions or the specific ways our bodies respond to modern pathogens, we are often catching a glimpse of a tug-of-war between our modern environment and these ancient, dormant instructions. We are not solitary beings, we are the culmination of a vast interspecies collaboration that has been unfolding for eons. Our archaic heritage is not merely a ghost lingering in the background of history, but a vibrant, functional part of the machine that is you. Every heartbeat, every breath, and every immune response is a testament to the fact that these lost human relatives never truly left our side, for they remain, quite literally, inside of us, guiding the rhythm of our lives. An unfinished synthesis. To look upon the modern human genome is to gaze into a vast cartographic record of forgotten landscapes and vanished horizons. We are not the singular, pristine output of one isolated lineage, but rather a complex, living mosaic composed of many disparate human pasts that merged long ago in the dim, shifting twilight of the Pleistocene. This profound synthesis suggests that what we define as humanity is an unfinished project, an ongoing dialogue between the living and the long departed. When we analyze our own genetic architecture, we discover the echoes of Neanderthal resilience and Denisovan adaptation, woven so tightly into our cellular fabric that they have become indistinguishable from our own unique identity. This is not merely a biological curiosity, it is a profound philosophical realization that challenges the very boundaries of the self. We represent a fragile, enduring cycle of extinction and continuation, where the remnants of our ancestors serve as the foundation for our current evolution. Each fragment of Na preserved within us acts as a quiet monument to a relative who once walked across ancient, frost-bitten steppes, breathing the same air and facing the same brutal uncertainties that define our collective existence. We carry the ghosts of those who were lost, yet their legacy continues to pulse through our veins, guiding our survival in a world they could never have imagined. This realization demands a shift in perspective, moving away from the illusion of absolute separation toward a deeper understanding of our interconnectedness. We are a biological tapestry, stitched together by the hands of time, reflecting a history that is far deeper and more inclusive than we ever dared to believe. Ultimately, we are the synthesis of every human path that refused to fade into total silence, a living testament to the fact that extinction is rarely the end, but rather a transformation that persists within the heartbeat of the survivor.